So we're continuing with Halacha Yomi. We're up to page 244, Halacha 22. Sweet bread, Sfaradim are different than Ashkenazim in regards to the laws of saying hamosi. According to Maran, if bread is made with enough fruit juice, sugar, honey, or milk, to the point where the taste is different, now it doesn't taste, it tastes sweet, so then bracha is going to be mezonot. According to the Ramah, you're allowed only to say mezonot when the sweetness is noticeable and more significant than the taste of the flour. So therefore, according to Ramah, even if there's a bread made with honey or eggs and it has a small sweet taste to it, a sweet tinge, it's still going to be hamosi. But according to Sfaradim, once it tastes a little sweet, that's it, mezono. So therefore, according to Sfaradim, one who eats sweet bread will only be able to make mezonot, and he cannot say hamosi. We said for the Shabbat meals, you have to make hamosi. You're going to have to eat 216 grams of bread, of the sweet challah, in order to be able to fulfill the mitzvah of the Sudat Shabbat. So therefore, you got to make sure. A lot of Sfaradim, they buy water challah, in order to make sure it is hamosi. 23. A Sephardi eating in an Ashkenazi's house for the Shabbat meal should ensure that he has bread that is not sweet, so that way he can say a motzi. Because if there's not, you're going to have to bring pitas. I remember I was in yeshiva by Ashkenazim. Hashem bless them. They taught me a lot. And for Shabbat meals, I had to always buy pita before Shabbat in order to be able to make hamotzi, because the rolls were always sweet. And they were able to make hamotzi on it. I wasn't. If one finds this uncomfortable, let's say you're going to a guest's house and he's Ashkenazi, so you don't feel uncomfortable to bring your own pita and tell him, listen, do you mind if I bring my own pita? If you feel uncomfortable, so then when you return home after the meal, one should wash and have sweet, non-sweet bread for your Shabbat meal in order to fulfill this mitzvah. That's a little bit annoying, but you have to prepare in advance. 24. If one does not have any non-sweet bread, he may use sweet challah. Excuse me. He may use sweet challah or other pata babi kisanin as a second bread for Lechem Mishne. So let's say I have a regular hamotzi bread, but I don't have a second bread for hamotzi, for Lechem Mishne. So I'll take a pata babi kisanin, or I take a sweet challah, and I'll use it as the second loaf for Lechem Mishne. That's allowed. 25. One who is eating pata babi kisanin on Shabbat, eating snack bread like a muffin, you do not have to take two muffins and say borei mene mezonot. Only by hamotzi you have to take two breads and say hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Okay. However, if you have another muffin, it's praiseworthy to use it as lechem mishna. Because a muffin, we say mezonot on it, but according to some, it's still bread. Just because it's sweet doesn't mean it's according to one opinion that it's mezonot. According to other opinions, it's still bread. So therefore, it's praiseworthy to use it as a lechem mishna and say borei mene mezonot. Okay, matzah. 26. According to Shulchan Aruch in Kuf Samechet, a dough that's been baked to the degree where it became dry, hard, and thin, crunchy, is pata babi kisanin. It's a snack bread, you gotta say mezonot. Even though it contains the same ingredients as bread, due to its appearance and texture, it's going to be eaten as a snack, and its bracha is mezonot. Custom of Sfaradim during the year is to say mezonot on a masa. However, the custom amongst Ashkenazim is to say hamotzi on matzah all year round. They say that since it's hamotzi on Pesach, so it stays hamotzi the entire year. But we follow that it's mezonot. It's mezonot. Even according to Sephardic custom, during the year, one should preferably either eat matzah only while eating bread. That way he gets out of mahloket. Or at least eat 216 grams of matzah so he can say hamotzi. Because there's an opinion that says you should say hamotzi on matzah, better not to. It's praiseworthy to satisfy all opinions. 27. Let's say, so it comes out, you want to use a matzah for Lechem Mishne, for the hamotzi? You can't. You have to use bread. It's mezonot. But what if I have one real bread and I only have one matzah as my Lechem Mishne? You're allowed to. You're allowed to use the matzah as a second bread for Lechem Mishne if you don't have another challah, as long as you're eating bread for the meal. 28. The breads used for Lechem Mishne, they should be whole. They shouldn't be, sometimes you buy loaves of bread, they're sliced already. You should use a whole loaf and not a sliced one, not a broken one. 29. Each of the breads that is being used for Lechem Mishne should be at least the size of kazayit. So let's say you want to use a roll. The roll should be at least the kazayit to be able to. Sometimes the kids, they make this cute little challah like this big. So we want to use that as a Lechem Mishne, second challah. No, you should use a roll that's kazayit. 30, if possible, it is proper that two breads being used should be equal in size. A lot of times people rely on one big challah for the family and a small roll for Lechem Mishnah. Preferably, it should be two challahs the same size. It will be more respectful for the mitzvah. 31, if one has a choice between using square or round challah, it is better, the Ben Ish Chai says, it's better to use round challah. 32, if two chalot were stuck together when they were baked, you're allowed to separate them, and they're still considered two challahs for Lechem Mishnah. 33, if a challah broke in half, but it's not completely cut, and it's still considered whole, as long as when you pick up this piece still stays attached. Right? If this piece will fall off, that means that it's not attached, and it's not considered Lechem Mishnah. So it comes out, you have a challah that's a little sliced. As long as this is attached at the bottom and doesn't fall off, it's still considered whole. 34, the challah is considered whole, even if part of the challah is burnt, and has to be cut off and can be eaten, as long as it's not broken. Still, if we have another challah that's not burned, better to use the other one instead. 35, in the event that the only available loaves are broken in two, you should go and put them together, put a toothpick or something to put the two pieces together. It should look whole. That's the best thing to do when you have no whole loaves for Lechem Mishnah. You should try to make it look like it's whole. 36, if one cannot get two whole chalot, you may use one challah and one whole challah and one broken one. Okay, so you make it like that because you don't have anything else to use. 37, one may use pieces of bread that was toasted in the oven for Lechem Mishnah if you don't have two whole chalot. 38, if there's no whole loaf available, you use two pieces of broken challah instead. Frozen challah. Let's say I forgot to prepare a second challah for Lechem Mishnah, but I have bread in the freezer. Can I use a frozen bread right now for Lechem Mishnah? 39, one may use a frozen challah if he does not have any other bread as a second challah for Lechem Mishnah. If possible, one should preferably borrow challah from a neighbor, that way he has a real challah. But if you have nothing, better to use a frozen one. Okay, 40, one may not use prohibited bread for consumption for Lechem Mishnah. For example, bread that challah wasn't separated, that's a sur to eat, right? Truma, that wasn't separated, you're not allowed to eat that bread, that flour, right? Or patakum, you're not allowed to use bread that was baked by a goy, right? The Jew didn't turn on the fire, the oven. It's also a sur to use Lechem Mishnah. 42, if Sephardi does not fulfill his obligation Lechem Mishnah through the bracha of an Ashkenazi who's using bread that is chadash. Sephardim outside of Israel, they're very makpid on Yashan. So let's say Ashkenazi using leniency because the Ashkenazim, they have more and more to rely for the not to check if it's chadash or Yashan. So he's using a bread that might be chadash. A Sephardi preferably should not use that as Lechem Mishnah or fulfill the mitzvah through that bread. You should get a bread that's 100% kemach Yashan. Okay, good. So therefore, we see how important it is to go out of your way to use bread that you could technically eat for Lechem Mishnah. Baruch Amen. Amen.